Postpone starting the meeting at 4 o'clock until our other commissioner has a moment to arrive. We'll maybe give 5 minutes, and then we'll proceed. So thank you for your patience.
Going to be a long day, too.
You all set? Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I'd like to call to order our public workshop for the budget for the fiscal year 17-18. We welcome everybody here, and we're going to start the afternoon off with our city manager, Mike White, will be giving us sort of an overview of his ideas and his and staff's ideas based on the department heads and other employees of the city of what the budget will look like. And then after he finishes his presentation, the board will be asking questions, and I will do a page-by-page opportunity for everyone to look at the budget as we go through. If you are in the public or staff members, anyone who is here who has a question as we go, once the board has had a chance to ask their questions about a particular page, I'm perfectly willing for you to ask your questions as well. So that's how we'll proceed. And at this time, I think my microphone may be a little loud, is it not? It sounds loud to me. Is it okay? Okay. All right. At this time, then, I'll turn it over to our city manager, Mike White, for his presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. What I would like to do first, Commission and Mayor, is kind of go through some of the components of the environment we have to look at. Internally, we have to look at several different things, and I apologize, I picked the wrong colors for this presentation. But we have to do with employees, the commission. There's several internal ideas that we have to deal with. Then on as far as external, is on a micro. I wish I changed that. I can't see. Can't read my own writing here. Yeah. But we have to deal with micro and macro environmental things. Micro is some of the more policies and procedures you set forth, and macro being a lot of governmental agencies forcing things on us to change and adapt to new rules and regulations. So there's a lot that deals with it. And with that, as far as control, internal environment, you have more control of your budget. That gets down to the staff level of information that we have to deal with. And then on a micro level, it's something we continue to adjust as we go along. Of course, macro environment, we have no control. It's things that we just mandated to do. City of Lynn Haven has two different types of budgets, and I just want to go over this. Our general budget includes the executive, which is all different forms, law enforcement, fire, any kind of economic development, leisure service, building department, any of those type services in the enterprise be water, wastewater, stormwater, and sanitation. So actually today we'll be going through both budgets. On the general fund, with the services that we offer, are fire, police, public works, library, planning and economic development, administration. We have all of those different types of departments that make up the City of Lynn Haven. I do apologize, y'all, a lot. Ad valorem taxes, we have about $3.8 million, fines and fortune about $72,000, other local taxes $2.5 million, charges for services about $438, permits and fees $1.8, grants $1 million, miscellaneous $268, shared revenue, state revenue is about $4.6, and charges for other services about $418. That's the general fund. That makes up all the revenue that we'll be receiving from those different avenues. In this budget, we have for the employee commission, there's a few topics that I want to cover. One is it only adds one employee to the overall employee staff. I opted right now because I do not know what kind of staff I do have, and I'm still working through that. One-on-one meetings, I want to be able to see what services we can offer through what employees we have, and then we're going to start looking at, do we need staff up or what we might need to do. So there is budget money in this budget for contract services to help out, facilitate where some of the staff needed some extra manpower. I think there was a total of about 8 employees that was not filled. So another one is restructuring the commission pay. There's things in there about increasing the pay that y'all receive based on some of my findings with other cities and local governments of this size. And I got some information I can give you on that when we get there. It looks at a 3% COLA and a 3% merit across the board. It's in here, but knowing all employees probably will not receive the extra 3%, but it is in here, so it's built in. Training and procedures, HR programs, and training. Leisure services, we got in here adding another baseball field out there. We got doggy parks. We got gym lighting. There's more of the contract and some of the grass. I put more money in there to help with some of that, where we can relieve some stress off our employees, where they can trim trees, where they can take care of necessary items of that such. Building upgrades. One of the things I want to look at is adding a facility where we can at least have a drive-through where the citizens in Lynn Haven can go through and drive and pay their bill. I don't know if you've been up front as people try to pay their bills and try to park. We're moving the police station up here. That's going to add 4 or 5 more vehicles to this area. It's going to clog it more. I got a couple different ideas on that, but there is some money in there for that. I think being my utilities background, I see a lot of advantageous things having a drive-through for our citizens come through and pay their bill, because like the other day I was up there, a young girl, probably wasn't 7 or 8, and I figured a mom was in the car with another baby probably and sitting hurrying. It could be dangerous, and then raining, elderly trying to cross to get into the office. So that was some of my thinking behind that. One of the things I have looked at, the old fire, where the old fire department used to be above the office. There's nothing, it's just storage. We're not using it for a possible look at a small incubator to try to entice some small business, try to help some of our people in the city that's trying to start a business, try to help them out, put them up there, because it's totally separate from the office. We can do that. Painting, I got in there to repaint the building, also paint this building and the library, and also replacing the roofs. There's several roofs that has to be replaced. So There were some big ticket items that's in this budget. Fire department, police, safety equipment, we're looking at possibly bringing on a K-9 unit. We have an employee that has a dogs, so we're really looking at that, and, it'll take us a little money, but it could be advantageous for the city and help the employees structure out from what we do on a day-to-day basis. There's several vehicles in there, of course, some training. Public utilities in here, you have the half-cent sales tax. Of course, y'all know we're fixing to kick off that. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, hopefully we'll be paving. Next 2 weeks, 2 weeks should be paving. So that'd be great. We have some vehicles in there, of course, more equipment. City upgrades, one of the biggest things is I noticed when I first got here, first day's phone system. The system is very old and it has issues. So that's one thing we're looking at. Also some networking. We're not tied to any internal servers. I think that's where we can transfer files within the city, employees sharing files. We need to create a backbone for the city for internal use. One of the things, AV equipment for in here, it's about 20 years old, Ian. I guess he didn't hear me. I think it's about 20 years old or so. It broke down last meeting. We patched it and got it back working. So that's something. So, and the website, one of the things I want to look at on the website is creating the website where people can pay bills online. Make us a little bit more user-friendly to the customer base, because, most people today are you do it online. And our website does not intentionally have that right now. There's some big ticket items there. Kind of give you the expenditures, personnel services. On the enterprise fund, we have about 2.4, capital outlay about 2 million, transfers another 3.6, 1.9 in debt service, and 4.3 in operating. So that's kind of makes up your expenses in here as far as it relates to your enterprise fund expenditures. Revenue sources, other, we get a little over 2 million. Charges for services, we get about $10.7 million. Permits and fees, 1.2. And miscellaneous, we get about $53,000. So that's where the money comes that takes care of sanitation, water, wastewater, and water. Highlights some of the things in water. In this budget, you have about $25,000. I mentioned a little earlier, supplementing $25,000 for some contract services to help out a little bit there. There's a rate study in here, and also about $500,000 in replacing cast iron pipes in the city. So, we have a lot of old infrastructure that needs replaced, and Bobby and his guys have done a good job identifying that, and we put some money to it. As far as wastewater, we of course have some more contract services. There's one big item here, $375,000, and that's to permit our sewer plant. The permit comes up in 2018, and there's a lot of work that has to be done with that. And luckily, we do have our engineer here tonight, so if we have more questions about that, he'll help answer that, but it is a big ticket item. Also looking at rate study, we're still going off some old rate studies, see where we're at. I think the last one was done like 2010, so it's been a while. Then also we're looking at a replacement program, putting about $300,000 in there, replacing lines. Stormwater, we put some more contract service labor in there. Of course, a rate study definitely in there, and the stormwater master plan. Luckily, we've had a few dry days, not as bad, but that y'all each have gotten a lot of calls on stormwater. I've received tons of calls, so it's something the city has never done. I think it's very advantageous that you make this step forward and put the funds there to see what we need to do, if we need to add more basins, what we need to do to get the water out of the city. And of course, sanitation, just merely rate study, see where we're at, because we are collecting, quite a bit of revenue in that area. I'd like to see where it should be. So, Working with the staff, we went around the table, I think it was last week, trying to brainstorm, see how we can balance this budget. So I thought I would attempt to try each fund to try to give you an idea how Beverly and I work to massage everything to get it in balance. So basically, in the general fund, you have $14.7 million in revenue. We have about $16 million in expenses, so that leaves a deficit of about $1.4 million. However, you got to take into account in that we brought over almost $3.8 million in the surtax. So included in the revenue expenses side is some of that money. So we brought that forward, and then we think we're going to increase impact fees about $277,000, which will put it at $4.1 million. Subtract out the deficit, and that'll put you at 2.7. That's a net increase to unrestricted funds. So that's where this budget gets you. But it took a little while because Beverly and I was wondering about should we include the surtax, but it's going to carry forward a lot in this next budget, so we decided to bring it forward, even though we've already borrowed the money. So you're looking at about $2.7 million bringing in that general fund budget. CRA, you're looking at $313,000 in revenue. There's about $454,000 in expenditures, which puts a deficit of about $141,000, and we plan to use some of the reserves to cover that $141,000, and that's based on projects and actual cost of doing business with the CRA. Everything good so far? Okay, water fund, we have $4.6 million in revenue, $4.4 in expenses, so it leaves us about $234,000. And if we add the transfer out, within the revenue expenses, we have about $710,000 we're transferring out to stormwater. So prior to the difference of $234,000, you're looking at $944,000 you're actually making in water based on this budget, but we're going to have to ship $710,000 of it over to stormwater to cover that. Wastewater, 4.2, with about $4 million expenses, so you're netting about $164,000, which is very good considering you typically don't make a lot of money on wastewater services. And hopefully with a lot of this repaving, upgrading stormwater, we can start looking at reducing our costs at the plant, the amount of money that we're actually spending to try to treat water. Sanitation fund, looking at revenue at $2.7 million, expenses $1.9 million, which you got about $780,000 net gain, and we're going to transfer all that money out to stormwater. So it leaves you at a zero balance. And finally, stormwater. Stormwater, we only make $500,000. And that's part of the reason I put in there to do a rate study, because I really think we need to really look at how we collect money. Currently, it's my understanding that we collect money off every water customer. It's a flat fee. I really like to look at that with some rate study people and see what's the optimal way to try to help make up this deficit. As you can see, we're transferring in almost $1.5 million to help cover a lot of the costs, and then it still doesn't cover the cost. So we have to, use the impact fees to help cover that deficit. But that's been one of the biggest issues since I've been here this first month, has been the stormwater side.
I think stormwater is just going to be an issue. Stormwater is going to be an issue
Forever.
altogether. I mean,
Yes.
you're just not going to get ahead of it. I mean, I don't know.
No. And I agree. It's new item to deal with, and Bobby's been doing a wonderful job. I appreciate him for, help train me on that. But it's just, it's bad we have to use all our funds to cover that, but that's the way this budget's been put together to help make sure we can fund each fund itself independently. Do y'all have any questions on the overall outlook of this budget? I just try to give you a snapshot.
I do want to go back to one item
Okay.
that you spoke about earlier, and that was the parking issue that we have around here.
Yes, sir.
I know that the property across the street, the Bland property, corner 8th in Pennsylvania, is possibly going to be up for sale. And that's something that I really want us to look at, see if we can acquire that property to make additional parking for this area around here.
Yes, sir. Actually, Ben is keeping a close eye on it for us.
Okay.
And we've let them know that we're interested. And that was our thoughts to bring to you to allow us to knock down the house, increase parking for the city in general.
Yes.
And also it can be overflow for the senior citizens if they need it or whatnot, senior citizen center there.
Yep.
But yeah, great idea.
Sure. The city manager's in charge.
Yeah.
Taking the
Okay. I'm just going to use the opportunity. I know we're probably going to go through line by line, but since I do appreciate the PowerPoint, and since you have the different departments broken down,
Yeah.
so if we'll go to the different departments on page 3, I'll just mention some of the items that I've kind of mentioned in the past, but whatever. And I know you and I think we've talked about all of them except for maybe one. So, but just to bring them up. But I do want to clarify, because of the staffing, I know you and I talked about staffing, we're going to get one, there was like 8 totally requested, but just to be clear, some of that staffing, you're looking to outsource. So
Possibly in the future.
Yeah, outsource to catch up on some of these departments that were requesting additional personnel.
Yes, I've gotten with Bobby, and I told him to go ahead for right now. I mean, he has a log of back things to get done, and several of them y'all have called and they say it's on the list. It's on the list. It's a huge amount, and as things just progress day in, day out, there's no way our current staff can stay on top of that. So it's going to have to be supplemented.
Yeah.
And just hire some people, come here and say, hey, knock this out. Try to bunch several things together,
Right.
like a punch list, and let them go through there, fixing this driveway, digging out this ditch, unclogging this,
Over here.
culvert here, culvert there.
Right.
And that was my intent right now. Until I'll be honest with you, I don't know how many employees I have where I have them right yet, because
Right.
it's just been the first month and I hadn't had an opportunity.
Yeah, I think we can all appreciate that. Moving on to commissioner and mayor's increase.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it. I just think that if I'm looking at the numbers right, and again, we can talk about it more when we get to that particular page, but my only thoughts would be, I'd like to see a gradual increase. I think it's very important that we do increase. I've said this for a while. Lynn Haven's going to continue to grow. We've got 2 big projects. Well, the fuel depot will soon come on board. There's going to be some really tough decisions that require a lot of work in the future. So I definitely think we need to take a look at the increase. I just don't know if we want to do it all at once, or if we could just look at over time increasing to a certain point. That'd be the only comment I had on that.
Can I add to that?
Yes, sir.
Since I got everything in front of me. I understand exactly what you're saying, and that's totally up to y'all. And I'm not here to advocate one way or the other, but, I see how much each one of you, just my first month here, put into this job. And it's not necessarily y'all that was there. And Joel had this in the budget before, and he brought it onto my attention. And as I look at it, it's not only for y'all today, I'm looking for the next set of commissioners, should y'all decide not to run, it's got to be worth somebody's time. I mean, it's about how much time you put in here. You're talking about a deficit. Y'all way below a deficit on about the amount of time y'all put into a lot of this stuff. And just give you an idea, I asked staff to pull me some numbers. Panama City Beach, the mayor and commissioners make $25,000 a year. And then they get a $450 car allowance, plus, insurance. Somebody like Niceville, which is, several thousand smaller than us, they get $13,000 a month.
A year.
A year, I'm sorry. Sorry, I said.
Wait, what?
I'm moving myself.
And even Callaway, y'all, we're way bigger in Callaway, and Callaway pays them $10,000 a month.
A year.
A year, again, sorry. And of course, Panama City, somewhat larger, they're right at 24,825, and then some car allowances and other things. And, you know, y'all here at around $7,500. There's, you know, you need to look at that. You know, it's in here, and I left it in here for a purpose, because I think it does need to be looked at, and, you know, there's just, you know, what caliber of person is going to spend a lot of good time to try to make sure the city's running right. And that's all I asked you to do. I know it's hard, it's almost like Congress voting them a raise, but, you know, it's, you know, it's something needs looked at.
Yeah, oh, I appreciate that. And I know how, you know, we compare. And I will say that I've been, I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, but I did download an app on my phone and started tracking my time, and I was a little surprised, really, as to how much time you actually put into it, but I enjoy it. I really do enjoy it. So I just wanted to mention that if we don't do it all at once, maybe we could just, because I do believe in the future and trying to attract good talent to take Lynn Haven. The next thing I wanted to mention is for the police department, getting the new cars. I don't think this is one of the things we've talked about, but I've talked about in the past, is if we could just get, or at least look into some type of cover, not a full barn or anything like that, but just a cover of some sort for the officers to park the cars under when they're here. You know, and I know we're getting new vehicles, and just something to maybe that we can protect those. If nothing else, keep them a little cooler. Just something to look into. I don't know the price of something like that, but it's something I've always thought about. When I see them all lined up nice and pretty, I'd like to see them all lined up nice and pretty under a shade of some sort. And if we're moving over here, maybe it allows, you know, an opportunity for that.
Okay, good idea.
The website I forwarded you, I keep forgetting to send it to you, so I did just forward to you. It's called ClearGov. ClearGov. And just to give an example, they had sent us an email, and this is the cleanest website of any municipality I've ever seen. They do several. This just happens to be the one I clicked on. So if you'll just look into that one, I don't know, for anybody in the audience who wants to see. It's just a really clean snapshot of your city. So ClearGov.
Okay.
You'll just look into that. Let's see. Of course, last thing is that I bring up every year is the splash pad. If there's a way for us to find the funds, you know, to do it through the budget. I know that we have the fundraiser going on, and I can't say enough about, you know, the incentive that the mayor took to do that. And I don't know exactly where we're at with it, but my approach has always been to try to go through the budget. And see if we can work it out in the budget. So, and I know you and I have talked about that. I know you're working on it, or at least looking into it. So,
I think that if that's something that y'all really want to look at, I think there's room in looking in the budget, and you know, through impact fees that we've collected and some more things. I think it's doable if that's what y'all want to look at. And I'll be glad to put some numbers together later and add to the budget to give you an idea.
And not taking away, I just wanted to inject
Yes,
really
ma'am.
quickly, the splash pad that Commissioner Friend is referring to, and correct me if I'm wrong, is in a different location than the one that I'm trying to do privately. And so I want to make sure that if the commission does decide to go forward in funding one in another location, that it's made very clear to the public that the splash pad that I'm raising funds for privately is not involved, because that's been the benchmark of what I've said all along when people have said, oh, is this going to be a taxpayer expense, blah, blah, blah.
Gotcha.
So I want to make sure that they know that this is completely privately funded and not mix those two
Yes, ma'am.
together. And this past week, I did get another $1,000 donation.
Great,
So
excellent.
it's moving well. So
Yeah.
anyway, but
well, and I can't say enough. I want to use the opportunity to say how much I appreciate you doing that and taking it upon yourself to do. My approach has always been to try to do it through the budget, and then we just, if it's something that we can do through the budget, then we vote on it, and if we can, we can discuss where it goes. Yes, I have always thought that the sports complex, only because I think that if it is a taxpayer-funded operation, that it would just get utilized more out there, is all I have to say on that. But I think that is all I have.
I have a couple.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a couple of things that I'd just like to throw out there, and I know, like Commissioner Friend said, or friend said, we're going to go over everything. Two things. I would feel personally very guilty taking a raise as a commissioner if our staff, our employees do not get a raise. And I also feel very strongly as an alternative, instead of 3% COLA and 3% merit, just to go straight 5% across the board for everyone. It hasn't happened in years and years. And I think when you talk about a merit raise, I think it's totally subjective. I
It
mean,
is.
it has to do with personalities, it has to do with all those things. And that's not on a fair playing level.
Yeah.
And if we're doing a merit raise and some people get 1%, if that's what their supervisor thinks of them, they shouldn't even be working here.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're only worth 1%. So I personally would advocate for a 5% across the board.
And I totally agree where you're coming from, but the only issue I see is, I do believe in merit raises. And I say that is some employees put out more than others. And the only problem with making everybody equal, in my opinion, is it does not incentivize and reward employees for going over and beyond. So, in my mind, I've seen it. I've seen employees just lose concentration and encouragement just because, hey, ain't no sense in, because everybody's getting the same.
Well, if the merit raise is something that everybody agrees on, then I would highly recommend going higher on a COLA raise. When you do 3%, I said if you're very strongly opinionated on doing the merit raise, then I feel the COLA should be more than 3%. I mean, when you look at most people's salaries, that's like, some of them are getting $1 or 25 cents, 75, it's hardly anything.
yeah.
It's eaten up in taxes, so it really doesn't mean anything to them.
And I appreciate that. Thanks for clarifying. I did have that, and I forgot to mention, just, are we saying 3% and then up to 3% merit?
Up to 3%.
Okay.
Yeah. But the budget's
Okay,
built,
I see what you're
the budget is built on what if scenario, everybody got the full 6%.
Okay. So
That way, there's no funny numbers jump out at you later, say, well,
Right.
you didn't say this.
If
I
it
could
went down to
definitely-
5, the numbers would even be better.
It would lower, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I could really appreciate a little bit, what I'm going to call a base raise. I could really appreciate a higher base raise, more than 3%, but I am a merit guy. I think that you can, if you do it right, yes, it is subject to the department heads, but that has to be controlled by your CEO.
I've looked a little bit at some of the salaries, and this is one of the issues we're having for some of the employees that, more entry level and some of the specialized, it is the salaries, and some of them are extremely low. I've had to deal with that my past career. So, my idea is to y'all just finished a pay study. I'd like to take that pay study apart and analyze each department. And I'd like to set some parameters saying, well, we're going to pay, 75% of the percentile as the base start. We're not going to start somebody way down here. We're going to start them here, and we're going to gradually bring them up. Have a range there, and also for some of the lower paid jobs, because you have to be creative. Somebody that makes quite a bit of money, if you give them a 5% raise, that means quite a bit of money. But if somebody's making real low, and you give them 5%, it's not a lot to it. So you have to be creative and either do some kind of percentage plus 20 cents, plus 30 cents, plus 40 cents. That brings them up quicker. And it is a way that you can manage bringing your employees to a certain level. And I want to look at that and bring that to you all before we actually do the appraisal system.
I appreciate so much what you're saying about the salaries, and the salary study that was done previously, I was totally in dismay about how that is laid out, so I would love for you to look at that.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that we need to look, I apologize for my cold and allergy today to everyone. I would like for us to make a priority of looking at our hourly personnel. Our administrative personnel are valued, they do a wonderful job, but if you look at the disparity in many of the administrative positions as opposed to our hourly people, our police officers, right now in the atmosphere in which they're having to work, and if you look at their hourly rate, That's a priority with me. Our police officers need, and I'm talking about our officers, those that are out on patrol in the cars, meeting the public. I'd like to see them really get a good look. Our firemen, our first responders, our leisure services department, those guys are out, and girls, ladies are out in the hot sun. Most of the time it's hot here. Our public works department, all of those who are out doing the heavy lifting, the heavy labor, not that again, let me just clarify, I'm not saying that our administrative people are not valued and our clerical people are not valued, but we are spending a tremendous amount of money training, especially our police officers, fire department, and some of the other departments, and then they're quickly moving to other cities where they're being paid more. So and if you go back and look at the history of Lynn Haven, and I know I'm not popular for saying it, and I'm sorry, I'll probably remain unpopular with some for what I'm saying, but giving that 5% raise year after year after year to administrative people has put some of our salaries almost at the manager, the city manager level, while we've got others who can't afford to buy groceries for their family. And we need to fix that. There's too big of a disparity. I've been saying that for 2 years, and so I hope maybe this might be the year we get it fixed. So that's where I'm at.
Well, echoing some of that, the police chief and I have been dealing with this. As you know, the city and the beach both announced that they're hiring. We have 2 positions open, had 2 positions. I think we filled one with an employee coming back to us, but the other one, we thought we was going to offer him a job, and he called us, said the city hired him. He got a better deal. So, I agree with you, Mayor, and several of y'all expressed your opinion. That's something I really want to give it some thought to bring back to you.
just to clarify, what did we do last year as far as a raise?
3% COLA.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
That's the way it's been for, can somebody help me?
At least 5.
Been there for a while.
Bobby, y'all remember? Was it 1% last year? I'm sorry.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
One-time boost was last year, I think.
A one-time, okay.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
But Commissioner Friend was commenting that it had been 5% with merit, but when I looked at the records with the old city manager, the only department that used merit was the police department. Everybody else got an across-the-board 5% for almost 10 years, and that's why the salaries are so inflated in some areas and so small in others.
Okay. I apologize for that. I missed.
All right.
Ms. Tender, did you have another one?
Oh, no.
That was it? Okay. Anybody else have anything on the overview before I turn it over to the mayor?
No, my items are in the budget itself, so.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Did anyone from the public or the staff have a comment or question about the general overview that you would like to ask before I start the page by page going through the budget? Okay. And when Mr. White was asking me what I thought would be the way to conduct the budget workshop, I made the comment to him that before I was mayor, that the page by page is what we had done previously, and that seemed to be sort of what people wanted in the past. Does anyone on the commission have a suggestion of another way you'd like to do it, or is page by page okay with everyone? Is that okay?
Good with me.
Okay. All right, then I'm going to skip over the history of Lynn Haven, the revenue sources, and look at page 6, which is a citywide revenue summary by source. Do we have any comments or questions on that page? Good. Go ahead.
I don't know where this is going to fall, so I'm just going to throw it out there. With the new trash pickup, it was my understanding from the last city manager that we were saving a lot of money, I mean thousands of dollars. What category does that fall into?
Beverly, you remember where you put that? It's in the sanitation, so it'd be an enterprise fund.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
And then looking at page 7, the general fund revenue and the enterprise funds revenue, any comments or questions? I'm going to just sort of move on. If I move too quickly, just tell me to stop, okay? Moving on to page 8 then, the citywide expenditure summary by function, with a total budget of $30,657,377, sorry. Okay, then moving to the executive expenditure summary.
Under administrative support, what's the 1.426 million for?
On capital outlay.
Yes, sir.
Beverly, you got the roll-up in that?
It's detailed on that, in that department budget, and that's on page 30.
30.
Thumbnail. On the bottom of the page.
Bottom of the page here, some of that is the commission AV equipment I mentioned earlier, phone system, senior citizens, senior needs air conditioning, Nations Building needs some air conditioning, some computers, and some remodeling. Different items that are included in there. Not all of it, but pieces of it.
But that only totals 292?
Yeah, it just only pieced some there, and then, Beverly, where's the other?
Capital administrative, okay, so. Yeah, I don't know, I'll have to see what I'm picking up there. Let me see.
That's under law enforcement, right? Up here says law enforcement. Yeah. It's just
I
a,
may have something in the wrong category because it's, I mean, the total
We will check on that.
is right, but
it
it
was
may
just
be in
such a
the
big
wrong
number that it kind
Yeah,
of
I'll
jumped
check
out at
on
me.
that.
column. You're correct. I'll check on that.
Thank you.
Without having the spreadsheets, it's hard to figure out what's rolled up in there.
But it should be capital outlay, so
I
it should
think-
be
I think
like
so.
new purchases or repairs, right?
Some, yes.
Looks like the grant expenditures are included in that.
What now?
Looks like the grant expenditures are
Grant
included, and
expenditures.
most of them are capital.
So you got a lot, the grants coming in is in there.
If you add, if you're looking at, under the original, under personnel on the administrative support for 1718, that's $1,133,000.
Yeah, plus the 292.
If you add that together, you're within just a few dollars of that total amount.
Which numbers are we talking about?
It's 1,426, yeah, that's.
Page 30.
It's just, I think personnel is rolled into capital outlay is how
Yes.
that number came about.
I think the grants, if you add the capital outlay and the total grants together, it's the 1,426. And most of the grants are for capital projects.
You see that?
Okay, you're saying add that number to what number?
Under total grants, 1.133, plus the 292.
I'm sorry, I guess.
Right here in the green column?
If you look at the
Right
top
there.
of
Okay,
page
gotcha,
30,
right here. Okay,
That's where you get the number.
Yeah.
okay.
Which is these different grants for, Sheffield Park, Kensaw Park.
So out of that 1.426, only 292 is coming out of our fund, the rest of it comes
Yes.
grants? Okay, all right, okay.
Okay, then looking at, anything else on page 8? We're good? Sorry, that was page 9. On page 10, anything? Of course, it's a summary page, so we're going to be able to see all this individually as we... Okay, on page 11, the general fund debt and the general fund note, well, the bonds and the note, rather. And moving on to page 12, the enterprise funds. And this is the debt page, debt summary. And then the next page is intentionally left blank, and then moving on to page 14, that's a heading page for the general fund. Now we get into the nuts and bolts. Page 15 is the general fund revenue by source. The total general fund budget is $16,300,489. I think as we get into the individual pages, we'll see more about what we're
Yes.
talking about there. Okay, so the general fund on page 16. I just want to make a general comment that I get a lot of calls and complaints about the amounts of permitting and fees in Lynn Haven and how difficult it is to permit, how difficult it is to, I have that's probably 50% of the calls I get from people very upset about our permitting process. So just wanted to throw that out there while we're talking. Any comments or questions on 16? Moving on to page 17. General fund revenue. Anybody?
One thing I'd like to ask y'all before I put too much time in it. I had the pleasure of going out to the animal shelter that we have. I didn't really realize how big a facility that was. That's a huge facility. And I've talked with Ramona out there, and you know, I may be looking and talking to the county or something, and I may look at trying to make a little bit more revenue using our shelter a little bit more. She told me she could handle a few more animals, and it may be a search for the whole county to try to help and utilize, you know, a big facility, because we're already paying for that big facility to be owned and taken care of. So that may be something, you know, I'm going to look at, or maybe some of the neighboring cities may need some help. And I'd also like to add on there, if you don't mind, one thing, our leisure services, there's been talk about not only offering a regular reg league baseball, but we're going to be looking at offering a tournament type style as well. So that would save, we could probably put on a lot of tournaments and things, so it may boost the revenues up more. And I compliment Brent and Maria on that, you know, to bring that to my attention.
And back to the animal shelter, when you were talking about a dog park, were you considering having it at that location? Because we've had a
Yes.
lot of requests for
Yes,
that.
ma'am. There's two in there. There's a smaller fenced area and a larger fenced area.
Okay.
And I remember looking at it, as long as the ones in jail can't see the ones playing in the park. That's my only request. It just breaks my heart.
I think that was part of Ramona's suggestion, though, if we had it out there by the shelter, that she could help to socialize the ones that she has and make them more adoptable. with
And I
some-
asked her about that. I mean, there's people that utilize our existing little fences that we used to try to socialize dogs and see if they're a good match for, a new owner. But she says a lot of people ask, can I just carry my dog in there? So, it was a no-brainer when Marie had it in the budget.
That's right. Okay, on page 18, general fund revenue continued, any?
A couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
And it's just a question. Should we consider contributions from private sources as an income? I mean, I know it would be an income, but how can you count on it when you're not guaranteed that source?
Well, I think that number was put in there a lot for historic. That's what we've been getting for certain donors, and we hope to continue and make sure those relations stay pretty strong because, we do have in there $20,000, and you can see the actual is almost hitting that mark already, 19.5.
Well, and I think the past, speaking of the senior center, I know you had some things there that they need. I know some people have stepped up in the community in the past and, made donations there.
Oh, yeah, it's just that when it's considered a contribution, I don't look
I
at it
get
as a
Right.
guaranteed income.
Oh, I agree.
So,
It's not a in-stone
But
revenue.
if y'all think we shouldn't have it, I mean, we can take it out, that's not an
I mean,
issue.
it's not a
Just make
large
sure.
sum of money, so I don't think it matters that much. It's just a question. I do have one other question, if you don't mind. And it relates to Dr. Nation's property.
Yes, sir.
I thought I read in the lease that the lease that we're going to be looking at tonight, it's only $39,000. And you've got listed here $59,000 as rent.
Now, that is an estimate based off,
Are they going to pay us back for some?
Yes.
Some renovations that they have
with the
requested?
renovations that we're making in the facility, it was a little over than the $20,000 that we're making on our part, and we're adding that to the first part of the lease.
So he's
He's
paying-
got to fund that.
Okay.
And that'll pay the city back. It wouldn't no sense to try and get another contractor in there. I think it was $3,000 or $4,000, Ben? Yeah. So it wasn't a lot of money.
Okay.
And on the splash pad contributions, I know it's at least another $1,000 higher than that, and it may be 2,000, because there's maybe another one that hasn't been, anyway,
Okay.
And this was as of June, so I haven't
it's probably a little higher.
updated it, yeah.
And those are the contributions to the city as well, doesn't take in,
Any tax dollars?
well, we're getting them from a GoFundMe account as
Yes.
well, too, that's on Facebook, so. Moving on to page 19, which is general fund expenditures by department. And so just looking at the summary, and then we can go department by department and look at what that will be with a total general fund budget of $16,300,489. Okay, looking first at the general fund expenditures, the legislative page, which would sort of be directed at this group.
Is this strictly the five of us?
Yes.
Yes.
So we cost the city $40,000 a year in health and life insurance?
Those of us who take it, like, I don't take it.
I don't either.
I don't either.
I do.
Wow, y'all- That's what I was looking at.
I mean, just for the record, I write a check.
So do I.
Hmm.
Like $500-something.
Okay,
So that, I think that's a good reason why we're looking at bidding it back out, which goes into my question with the 5230. Are these numbers what we have now? That's not what we're about to negotiate?
I didn't
The health and life
Yeah,
insurance benefits?
these are based on assumptions.
Right.
Through June, so.
Right.
There's a lot more truing up we got to do, but that's averaging, doing a weighted average through June.
Yeah, it's hard to
It's a moving
estimate the
target.
health insurance because we'll do new elections in September, so everybody's health insurance will be different, but our estimates are based on what's in place now.
And not disparagement toward anyone who takes the insurance by this comment. I don't mean that in any way.
that's fine.
But I think that was part of Joel's thinking in trying to bring the commission, Joel Schubert, our past manager, in trying to bring the commission's salary in line with some of the other cities, because if you're not taking the insurance, then that puts your compensation considerably lower than your fellow commission members. And so he was trying to make it more equitable in that line. And then also to make it more attractive to people who would consider running for office in the future, because the salaries that right now at 8,000 and 7,000 basically don't bring out a large number of people to try and come and serve the city. So, and actually ours is not called a salary in our charter, it's called an expense account. And if you've been a commissioner for a year or two and begin to look at the expenses that you do expend, the other cities do give even the car allowance, which our city does not. And so most people who are serving on a commission in Lynn Haven, you're in the hole pretty much as far as finances go. Before you get, yeah. So I think that's where he was at. I don't think he was trying to be extravagant. It looks like extravagant with 100%, but I know several years ago, the beach did 150%, I believe, is where they went to when you count their car allowance. So anyway, that's what he was looking at, is trying to make it more equitable, more attractive to bring people in. Any questions further? Moving on to page 21. We're looking at the executive budget, the salaries, any overtime, and then also their operating expenditures and capital outlay. Again, if anyone from the public has a question, just, let me know. Just cough or something.
How do we, and without getting into a big, long, drawn-out thing, this is just curiosity on my part, how do we get or determine the pension benefit?
Pension benefit is.
How's that determined?
It's
Yeah.
outlined, it's a formula based on the employee's salary, the last high five times a multiplier of 3, if I'm not bad mistaken.
Their salary
I
times?
think they give us Foster gives us an estimate of how much we need to pay in to be funded for the next year. And we take that estimate and kind of spread it.
What I can do is give you the answer. I don't have it on me right now because I cannot remember. I've looked at it once. There's a formula.
Yeah.
I have to have it in front of me to tell you, but I'll write that down and get it to you.
Anything else on page 21? Moving on to page 22, which is finance general fund expenditures.
I'm sorry, can I just go back to one thing back here?
Absolutely. So going back to
This-
page
just-
21.
I'm sorry, just haunting me here. Private car, vehicle allowance, $5,400. Who gets that?
That was for the city manager.
That's what he got last year? Okay, that's all I needed to know.
Thank you. Okay, moving to page 22, which is the general fund expenditures for finance. So we're moving 2 positions from finance to another.
Yes, ma'am, we're moving purchasing and the grants administrator, which is, Vicki and deputy city clerk, into kind of their own department.
Okay. Okay, moving to page 23. We can always go back if I go too fast, let me know. Professional services, these are legal services, engineering services, management information service, and financial management. Not to open a can of worms, but I did want to mention that I had mentioned in the past that I would really like to see us, with our auditing, to consider an RFQ.
Okay.
We've had the same auditing firm for almost 20 years, I believe, maybe more.
And I have a question here
Yes,
under
ma'am.
engineering.
Uh-huh.
It says 33,000, but we pay them a lot more than that.
What else we pay them is under contract, RFQs,
Yeah.
or bidding.
It's under bidding.
So this is what we pay them
That's
as
for
a,
professional services, when we just ask them to look at things.
just to look at things?
Yeah, yeah, on an hourly rate.
Okay. And everything else that they do is.
Is by
Yeah.
bid, by bid
Based
out
on-
of RFQ.
Yeah, a
And is
job.
that the same with the city attorney?
Yes, ma'am.
No.
No.
No,
City
no.
attorney gets paid by the hour no matter what, right?
He has an hourly rate.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah,
I got his bill on my desk.
Okay, so that's 150,000
Yes.
a year.
Well, no, if you look,
average.
140 of it is for
City attorney. And
Robert,
then
and then
have
you got other
Labor
attorneys.
attorney.
And I wanted to bring up about the attorney because it does look, really high. And during the past year and a half, 18 months, there's been a huge amount of attorney's fees for the fuel depot process. That's really pushed it higher than it normally should be. So I just wanted to push that out.
Right. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, Mayor, because I know it may be a little out of context, but, and you may not even know the answer to it, but do we know at the closing, did the developer, did we get the $100,000?
We did get the 100,000
Awesome.
back for
Okay.
closing costs.
Yeah, 'cause-
Yes, we did.
Thank you. That's great.
I was happy to see that as well.
Yes.
Good answer.
So-
question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I'll
no,
finish.
ma'am, I'm fine, thank you.
Under computer software support, is that Munis?
That's Munis mainly.
We paid them $142,000
Yes,
a
ma'am.
year?
There's probably some more computer software, Word, and a lot of those have different fees. I'm not for sure if that's completely 100% Munis, but a lot of it is.
And we paid $40,000 for our web design.
That's what I have in there to redo the website where it can handle online procedures, like applying for service online, taking payments online, the whole.
And is that,
That right now is a guess. I'm waiting
I
on
see.
him to give me a better number, but based on the one company that I spoke with that does Panama City, does Panama Cities and a couple more cities around here, they range from $20,000 to $60,000. So right now, I put 40 in there just to see where the number lines up. And all these numbers here, Beverly and I is going to go back, and as we get, this actual is just through June, so we'll have about 11 months worth of data. So we're going to massage those numbers in 11 months to equate to a year, and that'll give us a better number. So the next time you see these will be trued up a lot better.
I just wanted to compliment you on the possibilities that we're looking at for, better technology with phones and website and Lynn Haven, we have a very technologically savvy community, and they're going to really love being able to go online and do some of these services that way. Okay, page 24, this page left intentionally blank. Moving to page 25. This is comprehensive planning. This is also general fund expenditures.
and who does that cover, comprehensive planning?
It's the next page, your page 26.
Oh,
It's
gotcha.
attached there.
You have 3 employees in there: code enforcement, the planner, and planning assistant. And that's one thing I will compliment the staff as a whole. They kept it pretty clean and try to only ask for things that we really need.
Looking at page 27, which is the Public Works Administration, So this is 3 people in this personnel schedule, so this is at the bottom as well. Moving on to page 28, which is the debt service for the general fund expenditures. Okay, moving on to page 29, which is administrative support services. This goes on to, yes, this is on 2 pages, actually, page 29 and 30.
This will be the new department we added here with Vicky and person manager.
I didn't quite hear you. Purchasing manager,
And-
that's going to be Vicky?
No, that's Angel, but Vicky, that's our deputy city clerk.
Right.
This is the new department where we created, moved them out of the planning. I think it was planning. Yeah, just moving
Just moving, they're not adding.
those dollars with them.
Get moved from one.
So all the contracting, all that kind of stuff goes through this department.
That makes it very easy to navigate. I like that. I really do. Let's see it. Any questions, anyone? Okay, moving to page 31 and 32. This is the law enforcement budget, sorry. I just wanted to make not really a question, but a comment. In speaking with the police chief earlier this year, I talked with him about, things that he might like to see, and one of the things he spoke with me about was the possibility of having a dedicated traffic patrol. I'm speaking for you, Chief, just don't throw anything at me. I was talking with him about, the speeding and the issues that we have in Lynn Haven, and many cities have a dedicated traffic patrol, so they don't have to, leave what they're doing with traffic and go and answer another call. So if, I just wanted, I know we're tight on our budget, but if there's any way that we can, juggle anything to assist him with that, and I think it would be a benefit to the citizens if we could do that.
And the salaries there, are those the hourly online too?
Yes, ma'am. The actual police officers.
So that would be a 6% increase
Up to
or change, yeah.
Up to.
Yeah.
the way it is now. Now, y'all end up deciding how and what the actual figure is. We just, for budgetary purposes, we put in there 3 and 3.
What's the reasoning that you dropped the fuel from 95,000 to 55? Is it reducing in cost, or?
Sorry.
So it's under 5522 at the bottom, fuel. You went from 95,000 original last year to 55 this year. I mean, that's a pretty significant drop in fuel cost.
If you look at the actual, I think it was taken off the actual fuel itself. It might have been a misappropriation as far as the number of dollars put in that account.
You might have been budgeted wrong last.
Fuel prices came down as well. And that's one of the reasons Beverly and I decided we're going to try to get these numbers a little closer to actual, tighten up the budget a little bit.
May help in operating too, moving everybody over here now, I would assume.
Okay, any other questions about the police, or excuse me, the law enforcement budget?
You're looking at buying 5 new vehicles, two
Two
cars,
patrols, two
trucks.
pickup, and one, another pickup, yes.
Okay.
A lot of those are just the high mileage, city miles.
Okay, moving to the fire protection budget on pages 33 and 34.
I know one number that may stick out at you is the utilities. But you got to remember, the police department's been paying the fire department's utility bills, so unfortunately, John's going to have to pay his own way. So that's the reason it's 248% higher than it has been. Because he'll have that whole building to himself.
Is there a reason why the firefighter salaries would have 5% instead of 6% possible? I missed something.
So I guess like the police salary was only 1% increase, but I think it's because some higher paid people left or retired and then it was replaced by lower salaries, and it may have been the same situation in fire. I'd have to look to be sure, but
Okay.
that could be what it is.
John mentioned to me one time, when I toured his place, that eventually we're going to have a new fire truck.
Yes. He and I spoke about that today. New fire truck's about $1 million, is that about right? $950,000, eats up $1 million.
Firemen always want you.
We had a meeting the other day with, the planning of John David's properties, and part of that is put another, fire department station and all out there, so we got that in our mind, and it's going to be short future because that truck's a 1995? 03. Yeah, so, and, so if you see during the year a little higher expenditures in repair costs, you know why. Those are some big old trucks.
I'm curious, what are air packs? 200,000.
The air packs, John. The air packs, the SCBA air packs, can you explain what that is? So we're going to have to bite the bullet and buy them.
Yeah, we got to have them, and that goes back to the truck. At some point, we're going to have to do that. I just highly believe that we got to give those guys the tools to do their service,
I agree.
period.
That's why I brought it up, because I know between the permitting for the storm, or the sewer plant and this, we got some big hits coming.
That's the reason I asked him, begged him to try to take it another year today.
Moving on to page 35, if nobody has questions further with fire, this is the building department.
And I would like to brag a little bit on Bo Creel and them in the sense that we had a bill dispute as it relates to, I think it's Pinnacle Port, the subsidized housing. We had signed a $20,000 waiver on some impact fees to help them get the funds to pay all that. So he took about a $15,000 hit going ahead and doing all the inspections and, and all in the facility. So he cut us a sprout, so to say.
So your meeting went pretty good then?
It went very good.
36 is intentionally left blank. Moving on to page 37 and 38, which would be streets.
That's a good sign, the 491% increase for paving.
Hallelujah, yes. And then on pages 39 and 40, we're looking at fleet maintenance. So ice machine is just, I'm assuming, just ice for their trucks and the...
For
Yeah,
the guys,
just for the
for
guys.
drinking.
Yep, they need
Or
that.
it's on its last leg.
And then economic development on page 41.
If you look at this a little bit, I split Ben's time at about a 60-40% rate to help the CRA some, not taking the full blow of his salary, where we can do a little bit more projects within the city, as well as, the things he does as far as economic development here.
Michael, have you had a chance to talk to our EDA director?
Yeah, I
Bay
know-
County, and
I know
are you-
Becca.
Okay, are we good with 20,000 this year?
Yes, I mean,
number we-
that's typically the number they ask for.
Is,
Of course, that's going to be up to y'all. When I get the bill, I'm not signing off on it. I'm going to let y'all talk about it.
Well, I think we've talked about it in the past, and I'm all for economic development. Don't get me wrong. City Manager Schubert and I talked about it in great length. We're in a very tough situation in Lynn Haven, because I do agree that we have people living in Lynn Haven and then working at the other, maybe at the airport, we're the closest municipality, we're the greatest municipality for them to live at. But how do we measure that? How do we measure our $20,000 investment? And I want to be a good neighbor. I want to be a good player in Bay County's economic development. But I just you and I haven't talked about it, so I'm using this opportunity to say that, pick up where Mr. Schubert and I left off. We really need to really keep asking them, you got to give us some kind of tangible results, to help us measure that investment, is all I'm saying.
I agree completely.
And we reduced the amount that we give by, I think it was $8,000, and when we did that, we no longer have a vote at the table either,
Well, now,
like, we're, with our
right, well,
board.
that's not good, because
If you have to give I believe it's $28,000 to be a voting member. You can go, but you don't get to.
Okay, I didn't know that, because I specifically thought that, I thought that we made,
Wait a
I thought we
minute.
made the decision
Let's ask Ben.
specifically.
Ben went to the last meeting.
I specifically thought,
We're still a voting member?
oh, okay. Because
But I mean,
I'll check
you're
on
sitting
it.
at the table with all the mayors and all, and you get a vote and a say in it, because that was not, okay, and that's a
We'll
misnomer
check
on my
for
part.
sure to make
Okay.
sure.
Well, I just wanted to, yeah, because
We
last
reduced.
time when we talked about reducing it, I wanted to make sure we didn't give up that voting seat, which I assumed you were actually going.
Well, I had
but-
gone to it until he reduced the amount, and then they said we didn't have a, so I didn't realize that Ben was
Oh,
going.
okay.
I did not know
Yes.
that.
I mean, because if we're definitely, because I thought it was 25,000 actually, and I thought, or 20, and then when we went to 20, I thought, well, I don't want us to give up our seats, so let's, again, I just want some kind of way of measuring the return on investment. So that,
And I
I'd
think
like
for
to look at
that,
that history, because that was, I know I didn't just imagine that. I mean, it was.
I'm going to find out for sure on that.
well, it directly affected you, so I'm sure you
Directly
would
affected
try to
what I was
remember it,
doing,
right?
yes.
If we're paying that kind of money and we don't have a vote, then we don't need to pay that kind of money.
That's what I'm saying. And I specifically stopped going to the meetings because
you
I
were
didn't have
told.
a, yes.
Right.
So-
Okay.
We will find out for
Yeah,
sure.
let's clarify that, and whatever that
We'll let
number
you
is,
know.
then we can discuss if we want to go from there. Yeah, because again, I wanted to reduce the amount, and I know at one point, we reduced the amount, we put the money over and gave more to the transit system. But anyway, I didn't want to reduce it to the
If we could
point
go
where we
back
didn't have a
and-
vote.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No,
if
you're
we could go
okay.
back and pull the 15-16 year, that would have been when I came on, and it's not here, but if we could pull that, I believe that it was a higher amount.
I think it was higher because Joel, I think, spoke to me
Oh,
about that.
it was higher.
He reduced,
Yeah.
y'all reduced it.
Oh, that's my
Yeah.
point, yeah,
It was around 8,000.
And there was some comment, he said, that's all you're going, basically, that's what you're going to get from the city.
yeah.
And they took it.
Yeah, we reduced it. My point was, I didn't want to reduce it beyond the point where we gave up our seat. So,
Well, you don't give up your seat, you give up.
I meant the vote, yes, ma'am. That's what I meant.
Okay, well,
Yeah,
let's not
so
belabor it, we'll just look into it and move on. Thank
We're
you.
going to take a quick recess for Commissioner Barnes.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Any other questions that anybody had there? We're just going to hang out for a minute until Commissioner Barnes comes back.
I'm going to.
Yeah.
Everybody's going?
I specifically didn't want to give up our seat, which I only assumed the seat was a voting seat.
So you voted. You have voted on issues? I'm not putting you on the spot, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, they give me a card or like a nameplate.
So obviously, we're still voting.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
thank you.
You are, I think we have 3 nameplates, one for the city manager.
Wow. No, it's just that it's misinformation. Okay. Yep. Okay, do you, I'll get in touch with Becca and talk with her about, because I had no idea. So,
I think
so
being a member
has,
is very important.
so has Joel been going as well to those meetings?
I was mainly going to.
You the only one? Okay. Thank you, Ben. I appreciate that. That does not make me happy, but it's not with you. It makes me, it makes me very unhappy, but not with you. With someone else. Not with,
I don't know what was shared with you and,
no, it's miscommunication between Mr. Schubert and I'm sure. Thank you. I appreciate it.
if you look at EDA's budget, the county obviously is paying most of their budget. And then the cities,
You
they
pay by
pay around
population.
20, and then the private sectors, they're all less than 20,000, between 5 and 10 in that area.
Right.
So we're paying still a substantial amount of money.
Oh, yeah, absolutely we are. Okay. Thank you. I can't tell you how many times I've had egg on my face because of things that he told me or didn't tell you. Yep.
Are we going to get through all this in 30 minutes?
We'll speed up the pace. We're going to
Sound.
probably get some more tissue for me.
I'm good, and I'm getting chilly.
So we're on the library, pages 43 and 44. Questions or comments?
I do have a comment. When I visited the library and spoke with the manager over there, when they have their book sale every year, it's books that people have donated and given to them. It's nothing that they have paid for.
Yes.
And last year, I believe they sold a little over $500 worth of books. And I would like to see the money that they make on that sale once a year go into petty cash or something for them. I was told they have to bring it back, it goes back in the general fund, and then they have to request that back again. And I don't know that,
Well, that's mainly for accounting purposes, just to track it.
right,
But it does all dump back into the general fund.
right.
But
And they
I-
have
we
to,
can- I mean,
they
I
have
can
to
look at
ask
it.
to have it brought back out again.
I don't know if we can do a sub-account or,
Yeah, we
let me get with Beverly on that and think about it a little bit.
Okay, any other comments or questions on library? And then moving, I'm sorry. Mr. Barnes? No. Okay, moving on to page 46 and, 45 and 46, which would be leisure services.
Okay, I'll start. You've made the comment that you want to build a new ball field.
Yes.
That's going to fall into probably the 286,000 under improvements?
It and some of the dugouts, redo some of the dugout stuff, and I think they're getting new roofs out there. There's several things we want to do out there. If you look at a lot of the roofs and all, it's in pretty bad shape.
And this is coming out of the general budget, not out of the restricted funds?
We're going to be able to pay for the field out of impact fees. So, we'll be able to use some of that. I think I have to go back and look, but I think it's 400 and something thousand dollars in impact fees. So being a new ball field, we'll be able to pay for that. But, and we're looking at like a AA field, due to the fact AA is easier to drop back to a T-ball if you need it. And just as age groups, there's a lot of people, correct? Okay.
What about batting cages? Are there any batting cages that's added to that?
Go on the
we-
next page. Let's go on the next page.
Just enhancement. Page 47.
Actually, all the way to 47 with leisure
Yeah.
services. Sorry, I didn't listen.
Oh, okay. $8,400 for the bat cage, is that going to put the roof on it?
Hopefully
or-
put a roof.
Okay.
And we still have, I think, some money. It's not a roof, is it? The fencing around, I'm sorry.
Oh, around the bat
Yeah, to
cages?
keep somebody from getting hit.
Could you go into the impact fees just a little bit, so if this is the opportunity for me to say splash pad again, thank you.
You may not have yours before mine.
Oh, here we go. But,
Impact fees, what page?
well, no, you don't have, just explain how you're going to be able to use that, because it's.
Because it's
It's
something
an
new,
addition, right,
addition
exactly.
to the park.
Right, I just wanted to
And
make sure we.
so a
all
splash
understood
pad would
that.
fall in addition, baseball field, any of those items
Right.
that you want to add. But I'll say it again, splash pad, how's that?
I know there was some concern about salaries with the, some of the people in leisure services. I know she got a 13% increase. I mean, how close are you getting to where Maria wanted the salaries?
I don't know, but I'll be honest with you, I did not put a pen and paper. I left a lot of those numbers until we had this first meeting, and then we'll, the next meeting, we'll have that a little bit closer.
Well, I would like to use the opportunity to say that I've said so many times before, I think we have the premier sports park, and leisure services they have such a great team out there, and expanding to do the tournaments is just going to be a win-win for the city. I mean, I can't wait to see some of that evolve.
But I think, Lynn Haven, if you look around, Lynn Haven's park, as far as local, is known for local ball. I mean, you go out to the beach, they have a lot of tournaments. We could piggyback with those possibly, but also, my intent is some of the contracting services is to upgrade those facilities and give Maria's guys more of a chance to enhance the park.
Right.
Take a little extra time making that field look a little better, because taxpayers, mom, dad out there every night.
Yeah.
Well, when we talked to, when I met with him and talked with him, Brent was there, we were talking about bringing up the sand, because I used to play softball out there, and
Yeah.
it gets too wet, but I know we're going long, but anyway, it's okay. I appreciate everything we're doing out there. We got such a great team out there. I just want to continue to enhance it.
That 13% is because that's the employee that was added. The one
An
employee for
employee.
the city was added in leisure services.
I know also that she's going to continue on. She wants another basketball court, another gymnasium. So these are all things that we need to look at, another big ticket items that I think the city needs, because the basketball is even more overcrowded than baseball.
Absolutely.
But I just want to make sure we know we've got those capital funds. I mean, for the dog park or anything else, we can use that money if necessary.
Tennis courts out there, so.
I think there are two out there.
Yeah,
They gotta be
they're going to be
redone.
redone.
They gotta
They got to
be
be
functional.
resurfaced. Yeah, they're not,
They're holding water
They're
right there at the
underwater.
pond.
Oh,
they're not in good shape.
Okay.
Then moving on to page 48, which is transfers and other non-operating.
And now the general fund, a lot of this is just allocation, because it takes the girls up front taking payments. It takes a lot of different, accounting department, my time dealing with those. So it's spreaded across all the enterprise funds there, as you can see.
Moving on to the enterprise funds, which is that's a heading page on page 50. We have enterprise budgets by fund on page 51. Just going to go through these summaries. And then enterprise funds revenue by source on page 52. And enterprise expenditures by function on page 53. Any questions on those 3 pages? Moving on to water on page 54. Water, pages 56, 55, 56, and 57, and 58. So there's 4 pages of water. Yeah.
Basically, the biggest thing in there is some contract services, in case we run in a bind, to get some help in here in case we need it.
That's, that's your outsourcing.
Yes.
I think this is the right category, but on page 58, the plant operator, where it lists that there are two of them, in some of the visits I've done, just trying to learn more about how we operate things, I believe this is the position where they're always on call, and there are only two of them. And so if we have any, room someplace for another person, I think that would be a really good place. Just wanted to throw that out there because they basically, I don't know when they sleep. It's just after listening to what they do.
Yeah, Bobby and I talked about, trying to identify other employees that may want that route where we can throw some money towards their education to get them trained up as backups for some succession.
You might could cross-train some people, if the training is not too much, maybe you could cross-train some people to be on call.
Well, they got to be certified.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Got to have special certifications. They got to do so much OJT as well.
Gotcha.
And it's such an important position. I mean, it really is, and to only have two of them, especially if we had an emergency, I just think that's
It's
a really
scary.
good spot. So,
But I think Greg or Mark got operator's license as well, so we have one spare, one of our administrative.
Oh, okay.
has
They can be on
license.
call?
Yes.
Oh, great. I didn't know that. It's fascinating down there what they do, I do know that.
59 is a blank page. Moving on to sewer. Page 61, 62, 63, and 64 are all the sewer line items. Any comments or questions? And then moving on to our stormwater, page 65 is blank, 66 is a heading page, and then the stormwater accounts are on pages 67, 68, and 69. So on the capital outlay schedule is the Alamo mowing arm for the bush axe. Is that one of our large ditch cleaning machines? Is that
That
what
mows,
is? Yep.
yes.
Okay, and so it's just needing a,
Need a new one.
okay. And we're moving on with no, if we don't have questions here, I'm going to move to sanitation, heading page 70, and 71 is our budget. Pardon me. As well as page 73 and 74. 72 is a blank page. Any questions from the board?
The only question I have is, and maybe I'm just not seeing it, if somebody could point it out to me, is I know that the past city manager told me about this new company and that we were supposed to be receiving a lot more money. Because I asked if the savings was going to be passed on to the people that use it. And he said, no, it would go back in here.
Okay, I will have to get with him about y'all's discussion and see
I just don't
what he
see
had told
any
you.
increase in, and it was a considerable amount of money.
Yeah.
That's why we changed.
Okay. Let me get with him on that, and I can answer that question.
Any other questions or comments? And
I
then,
hadn't even looked at that contract.
sorry.
I'm
I
sorry.
didn't mean to rush
No,
you.
no, no.
Are we good?
Mayor,
Yes.
I'm
got
sorry,
that.
if I
Sure.
may. It might be, Ms. Beverly might can help too. We've got the original of, in green, you got the original page 71, page 71, item 4343-91. In the green, you got original physical year for 1718 is 578, but the actual for, of course, that wouldn't be a decrease, that'd be an increase, wouldn't it? So the actual for 2017 was 481.
Well, that's through June.
That's through June. So at the end of the day, it should come out less
We're going.
when you get to the end of the year.
Yes.
So so you're not going to see it here, they're going to have to do the math.
Yes.
Yep.
I'd pull the contract.
So you would see it, where you would see it is the first year, the first time we produce the budget for 2017-18.
Correct.
Right.
Some of that could be the Board of Education change, where
And then
There
there will
was
be
an
around
error.
the schools, got taken out. So
That's
We are
true.
losing. Bob, you remember how much we're losing on
17,000 or
the
something.
schools?
Yeah,
19,000?
19,000. So some of that 19,000 is going, that we were saving by switching companies, we lost 19,000 because the school board
Outsourced there.
Did their
outsourced.
own
fr-
contract.
Where we
Own
were
contract.
doing it, right.
With the same people,
So,
right?
Yes.
Right. Yeah, it ended up being. 73? Thank you, Bobby.
Contractual services.
Ah,
There's the others.
there it is, okay. Oh, because we went from 90 mid-year, and now through June, we're already at 79.
Yes.
And then at the end of the year, we'll be less than that, hopefully, but.
Any other questions with sanitation? Okay, then moving on to the CRA board, on page 76, and then moving to 77. That continues on to page 79 with 78 left blank, and then completes on page 80. And we have 15 minutes to spare, so we have time for questions on this, or if you want to revisit something, let me know. For those of you just coming in, we're just completing our budget workshop, the first look at the budget. There will be another one, so if you want to come at the second one, but we're finishing up. Ben? Yes. Thank you. You can just come to the table if you like.
I just wanted to mention that the list of CRA projects for the next fiscal year was done with the help of the advisory board, so they provided some great input. And also, you won't be seeing any fuel depot related projects on this list, since at the time when we worked on that list, we weren't sure when the closing is going to happen. So hopefully, maybe mid-year or the following fiscal year, we're starting to see some projects that will take place on the fuel depot property. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Any items you'd like to revisit in any other sections of the budget? Anyone from the public have a question in any section of the budget? Okay, at this time, I'll adjourn our first budget workshop, and we'll resume with our regularly scheduled commission meeting in 15 minutes at 6 o'clock. Thank you.